Welcome to the Corporate Services Committee meeting for this Wednesday, March the 11th. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to ask the clerk to conduct a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Bateman. Councillor Campion. Councillor Diodati. Chair Gale.
I'm here.
Councillor Ganan. Councillor Grant.
I'm here.
Councillor Height.
I'm here.
Councillor Encina.
Present.
Councillor Olson.
Present.
Councillor Redicott. Councillor Seaborn.
Present.
Councillor Secord.
I'm here.
Councillor Cisco.
In full effect.
Councillor Whalen.
Present.
Councillor Zalepa. And we also have Councillor Sorrento and Morocco joining us today.
There's your daddy now.
And I'm here as well, Clerk, it's Diodati.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Diodati. I told her to wait a minute or two before you got here. Sorry about that. So,
Wise decision. Thank you, Chair.
land acknowledgement statement this morning. I'll read this for everyone. So, Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this morning? I do not see any. So we're going to move into our items for consideration, and to begin with, we will call on Beth Brenz, our Director of Financial Management and Planning, and Suzanne Mader, our Associate Director, Strategic Initiatives, for the presentation respecting our Q4 2025 financial update. Good morning, ladies. Please take it away.
Good morning, councillors. I am happy to be here today to present our Q4 results. So we do this every presentation, but a high-level overview of the presentation and the report in front of you today, CSD 6. This slide provides an overview for reference around the policies that guide both our budgets and our financial reporting. So in the book that is published on our website and is also attached as Appendix 4 of your report, this slide provides an overview of the information that's consolidated within that report. So turning to our year-end operating results. This slide provides a high-level overview of where we landed the year, broken down by our 4 budgets, so regional general levy supported, which is line C, and then as well as our water and wastewater line D, NTC line E, and waste management line F. So as you can see up on the top row, if we look at regional departments and general government before considering ABCs, we ended the year with a surplus of 2.6 million, which is 0.27% of the overall budget. ABCs did end up in a deficit position, largely driven by the Niagara Regional Police, and for a net general levy impact or an overall impact of $1.7 million or 0.14%. Water and wastewater, 4.9 million or 2.58% of the budget. NTC landed at a surplus of 2.2 million, 2.45% of their budget, and waste management ended at 2 million and 3.66% of their budget. So I will say largely that these results did align with the results that we presented at Q3. So turning just to general levy, this slide provides a bit of an overview to show, you can see the surplus of 1,747, so that's roughly $1.8 million, 0.14%. Overall expenditures within general levy is almost $1.3 billion. Some of the main drivers for that is our investment income allocation. So we did adjust the budget for that in 2026 with even an additional pickup before the final budget was approved. We did experience variance in labor-related costs, and that variance has been addressed in the 2026 budget. Largely relates to arbitrated awards within our unionized work environment, and $2 million in variance in computer software support and licenses. This is one time only, so was not considered as part of the 2026 budget. So turning to water and wastewater, combined, that's a gross operating expenditure budget of $189 million, $4.9 million surplus, or 2.58%. Similar to discussions during budget, we did experience some higher than anticipated or budgeted water sales, so that drove a large surplus in water this year, which was unique, and in alignment with our asset management status and our experience to date. We did experience variances in repairs and maintenance, and that is considered in the 2026 budget. We had a pickup in our biosolids collection and disposal contract pricing, and we did have a surplus in our labor-related costs. Turning to Niagara Regional Transit, they have approximately $90 million budget, surplus of the $2.2 million, and the drivers are listed on the slide. So we did experience higher than anticipated fare revenue, and that was considered in their 2026 budget. Provincial gas tax is a unique one. They're budgeting right now to offset their budget with provincial gas tax, but because they had a surplus, they didn't recognize the provincial gas tax and are able to carry that forward to future years. And the fuel reduction in fuel costs was a big savings for them, and that was incorporated into the 2026 budget. And then variance labor-related costs due to benefit and overtime costs. And again, that was considered in the 2026 budget. Waste management, $54 million budget, a surplus of approximately $2 million. And the puts and takes, or the drivers to that variance, are listed on the slide. So at year end, we look at our encumbrances, meaning things that we've either committed to through a council report or through procurement, a contract award, requisitions, POs. We do have the authority or the ability to say, we didn't spend it this year, but I want to carry forward the budget to next year. So that's what we call an encumbrance. I will say we are at the lowest in our encumbrances we've been in the last 5 years, which is indicative of we don't really want to carry forward budget to the following year if we don't think that we're going to spend it. So we tried to keep tight controls over the encumbrances, that we're really trying our best to manage our budgets in year and not continue to carry these forward. But obviously there are instances, a large portion of the encumbrances do relate to our incentives, where we've made commitments to fund the incentives, but the actual what needs to happen in order to fund them hasn't come to fruition yet, i.e. the building permit hasn't been issued, the building hasn't been built yet, et cetera. The one thing I did want to note on here in the general governance or general government line, the $1.158 million, that does include $500,000 for a service level review. So just so that everybody is aware that we are moving some of this year's surplus into the 2026 budget to be able to do that work. And that was in alignment with the council report that was brought forward on the subject. So turning to stabilization reserves, this table provides an overview of our forecasted balances compared to our target balances, again, between 10 and 15% of operating expenditures. The yellow box is our actual results before commitments. And note the taxpayer relief reserve at $37.7 million compared to our reserve target of on the low end of $90.7 million. The transit stabilization reserve is a newer reserve, and we'll have a balance of $6 million, which falls under target. Funding in this reserve will be considered annually through the budget process with the goal of developing and maintaining a long-term sustainable strategy to get within the funding target. Water and wastewater reserve is within the funding target, while our wastewater stabilization reserve remains quite below target with a balance of 1.8 million. And again, just to note, when a balance is below the target, it will impact our ability to manage operational risks. And just in closing, the waste management stabilization reserve is slightly above target. Actually, I do want to note, you will notice that our estimated transfer for both water stabilization, so you can see that's a 0, and waste management stabilization is a 0. Even those, so both those programs are forecasting a surplus, but because their stabilization reserve is within the target, then per policy, any surplus goes to their capital reserve. So we fund the stabilization reserve first and then capital reserve. So this slide's been included to provide committee with a revised picture for our taxpayer relief reserve balance for 2025 compared to our budget. So looking at the bottom line of this table, you can see that the year-end balance of the reserve is now at 33.6 based on the our actual results, and we had budgeted at 28.2. This is a result of, you can see the differences on the lines. We had budgeted for $5.4 million for Cy Cassay, the second round of their builds. That hasn't come to fruition yet, so we did not have to draw down the reserve for that commitment. And then in addition, I wanted to highlight the Brownfield RDC reduction grant. We are making a recommendation that the surplus on the levy be used towards our known commitments for that program, as we are anticipating that in 2026 and 2027 to be significant above that budget for that program. The program does end in 2027, but in the meantime, we're doing our best to come up with a funding strategy. So turning to capital, there's a slide like this for each levy: waste management, water and wastewater, and transit. So the purpose of these slides is to provide a consolidated status of the capital program for each of the 4 budgets in comparison to where we were in last year. So the green bars are S&C, also known as spent and committed, meaning the money's gone out the door or we have an active procurement on that project. So you can see in Q4 2024 on our levy program, we were at 82.9% spent and committed. At the end of 2025, we're at 78.9%. So there was a little bit of a decrease in the amount of spent and committed. So that's a little bit of an indicator to, obviously there's lots of details. It depends on the different projects that are being brought forward, the timing of those projects, but relatively in line with where we were last year. So this is the same slide for water and wastewater. Waste management and Niagara Transit Commission. So I want to take a moment to talk about capital variance projects. So what we do is any projects that's been closed with surplus goes into these CVPs, we call them, capital variance projects. It allows us some flexibility in year to deal with any unforeseen pressures that we've come across, things that we didn't know about at the time the budget was approved. And sometimes you'll see that you'll be asked for approval. So to draw down on these CVPs, anything greater than 250 right now requires council approval. You can access this, staff can access this up to 250 to deal with any pressures. Typically, we've drawn down these reserves each year to $1 million. Over the last few years, or since COVID, really, we've left the money in those reserves, just given the volatility in some of the construction markets and other issues that we've been facing. We do make recommendations. We'll look at this again ahead of bringing forward the 2027 capital budget. If we think some of these balances are too high, we can make the recommendation at that time to draw down and put towards the 2027 capital budget. So you can see on the levy line, we did draw down $1.1 million of the CVP and use that towards the 2026 budget. Water and wastewater, we're saying that's probably more than enough to leave at 8.5. We're taking 8.5 out, meaning we can use 8.5 million in the 2027 budget. So our year-end recommendations are in front of you today under CSD 6, and in accordance with our policy, we are asking council to approve our recommendations. And just noting again, we are maintaining our CVP projects to provide our flexibility to address in-year variances inclusive of inflationary risks and economic uncertainty. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Matter for her portion of the presentation.
Great, thank you. So I'm here today to present our Q4 achievements. So we come every quarter with finance and we update and provide highlights on different council strategic priority projects. So Appendix 8 is what I'm referencing, where you have that full update on all of the Q4 achievements for council strategic priority actions. Just wanted to provide some highlights on the different priority areas for you today. Again, more information is in the appendix. Starting with Effective Region. So Effective Region, as you recall, focuses on continuous improvement, service delivery, fiscal responsibility. Some of the highlights we wanted to provide for you today, the Niagara Region credit rating. So we were able to maintain our credit rating at AA+ and reaffirm that with S&P Global. This helps us with ensuring we have a good credit score, as well as supports us in meeting our infrastructure projects and meeting development goals. As well, as you know, and through a very lengthy process, we were able to update and have council's approval on the new procurement bylaw. This has been completed and is now in implementation, as well staff are receiving training on the new update to the procurement bylaw. Lastly, some new work that's been taking place in the organization is on business continuity planning. This is work where we look at our business impact analysis or operational impacts. If there's a disruption or an emergency in the organization, it helps us to understand what critical pieces and points of business or roles are essential to ensuring we move our services forward for the community. In the Green and Resilient Region, this priority focuses on reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, working with local area municipalities on climate change initiatives, and building resiliency in our infrastructure. Some highlights: we have been moving forward the Climate Change Action Plan. We're working cross-departmentally, so this is an initiative where we work throughout all of the departments and divisions, looking at ways in which we can impact or look at our services, our service delivery, or put in projects in place or policies to reduce our impact on our greenhouse gas emissions. The Eastside Employment Lands Water and Wastewater Servicing Initiative. So as the picture shows here, there is significant work taking place on the infrastructure for water and wastewater servicing associated with the Asai development. So this is an exciting initiative to see this work moving forward. As well, council will have seen that the waste management plan came and was approved and is now in implementation. This is a long-term plan that looks at a 25-year outlook on actions in regards to waste management in our community. Equitable Region. So this priority focuses on ensuring the region is inclusive and welcoming to all, supporting our growth and development, and improving access to affordable and attainable housing. Some highlights for you: staff participated in a pilot project called Aging with Dignity. This is funded through the Homelessness Reduction Innovation Fund to help prevent chronic homelessness for seniors. So this, through case management and clinical supports, provides rehousing, community connections, aftercare, and income maximization. So based on early successes, staff will explore additional funding sources following completion of this pilot. The Housing Incentive Program came to council, and this was to address the shortfall of approximately 20,000 purpose-built rental housing units in Niagara. So staff have created this purpose-built rental housing program and look forward to implementing it. As well, and you'll have seen that Beth presented on increased revenue in the Niagara transit system. I think this is also can be connected to the expansion of the transit benefit pass. So Niagara Region Transit staff, they expanded the transit benefit pass. So this partnership helped put in place 5,176 benefit passes that were sold from July to December of last year. That's almost 4,000 more than last year, or 2024. Lastly, the prosperous region is focused on attracting new business to Niagara, creating jobs, building Niagara as a global brand, and enhancing our transit system. So Niagara Week took place in October of last year. Staff councillors met with 9 senior members of cabinet, as well as 6 associate deputy ministers across 3 ministries. The advocacy event resulted in immediate next steps for core files, including the Consolidated Housing Master Plan, Highly Supportive Housing Initiative, and the South Niagara Wastewater Treatment Solution Project, as well as the two-way and all-day GO expansion. The Niagara Falls train station renovation is complete and has transformed this beautiful historic building and landmark into a modern, accessible model of multimodal transit hub. So the first phase is complete, and it focuses on enhancing customer experience, improving connectivity, and preparing the region for future growth and ridership. Lastly, the physician recruitment strategy, and as you will have heard, there has been success in bringing in approximately 25 more physicians into the region. And because of this, staff continue to develop a strategy around how do we continue to recruit physicians to our community. So it will address that issue of physician shortage and promote access to primary care, as well as continue to attract new talent. So this is some highlights for you. Staff will also be releasing the update to the dashboard, which we have presented to you as well. So we do have the Council Strategic Priority Dashboard that is updated quarterly for our community as well as council to see milestones or project information. And lastly, this year in Q2 or Q3, we will be bringing a final end of term update report on all of the council strategic priority actions to provide council with how did we do in wrapping up projects for this term of council and the council strategic priorities, as well as those projects that will continue to move forward after this term of council. So next steps, I'm going to speak for Beth. We're going to Finance will be preparing consolidated financial statements. Completion of the external audit will take place in April 2026. There will be a presentation to Audit Committee on May 25th, 26th, and the annual report will be published in June 2026. And we are happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you very much for the presentation, Beth and Suzanne. With committee's permission, I'd like to put both the report and the presentation together now for questions. So can I get Councillor Gannan to move and Councillor Encina to second this report and the monster motion that goes along with it? So thank you. So questions and comments. So we'll start with Councillor Height.
Thank you. In the presentation, if we go to slide 7, I think, the one that says summary results, for the sake of the public, not waste management.
You want the one before that?
The one before that.
That's the one you.
Yeah, that's the one. The number we're looking at, 1,273,000. That is 1,273,000, so the public can understand the complexity that takes place up in the region because of the dollars that we're working on. And if we go to the Niagara Transit, is there an error there? Is that only 89,000? Or should there have been a comment in thousands of dollars as well on that chart? Because that's 89 million. Under Transit, Niagara Transit Commission. Should that have been 89 million? So we're missing that statement that it's in thousands. So that should be corrected, obviously, before it goes online. Because we like winning awards, and I know our department normally wins awards for the marvelous presentations they make. And under stabilization, I think you spoke to the number that you would like to see, the targeted balance. Who determines 10%? Could it be 5%? Could it be 20%? Who's determined those numbers? Is it for our rating so we can keep an AA plus? Is that why we're looking at that percentage? Or is it arbitrary? How do we determine 10% or 15% is what our, what we'd like to see?
Good.
Or has council made that decision years ago and we're abiding by what council determined?
Through the chair, thank you for the question. So the 10 to 15% is actually highlighted in our reserve policy, which is a council-approved policy. It is highlighted as a target. It's not highlighted as a mandatory. Obviously, we have not, in my time here, hit that minimum balance. So it's a recommendation based on best practice for the organization of our size. That policy hasn't been reviewed in quite some time, so that's definitely something that we can take a look at and maybe provide some more fulsome response around why 10 to 15% is an important number.
No, I'm always interested in that number, and I'm wondering if we're similar to other communities. Is that 10 to 15% is a norm?
Yes.
And that's important, that we are a norm at least. Okay, that's one of my concerns. Now, back to the report, the recommendations, and I've made the director aware that I think it's somewhat confusing when I'm reading a report, and in the report it says under 2A, 18,000, okay, that makes sense, 417,000, 2,146,000. That's really $2,146,000, and I think it would be clear for counselors and the public to see it in that form instead of having the thousand after, because someone could read this and think, $2,000? What are we worried about? Anyway, that's a concern of mine. I've made staff aware of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Height. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question on the stabilization reserve position. Why does the police have two different reserves? One is the police contingency and one is the service board contingency. You don't have an answer, you can get back to me on it. So.
Through the chair, I don't know the specific legalities of it, but I do believe that the police services budget is different than the police budget. So those are two different, like obviously they bring it together to us, but they have two different reserves to align with the police services board and then the police services proper. But I can certainly bring back support for why that is. I can't speak to the this Community and Safe Policing Act or the requirements that would govern that, but that's my understanding.
It just seems odd you've got two different budgets within the one department. So you can get back to me on that, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Whalen. Councillor Encina.
Thank you, Chair. That was actually my question also. Seems a bit odd. Anyways, thank you very much. I look forward to the answer.
Thank you, Councillor Encina. Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My first question is for Ms. Brenz. On page, and I have to read my writing, 115 of the document that was distributed. There's approved grants and grants paid to date. There's a gap there of $47 million. If all of the grants were claimed, then we would we have the money to pay for that?
Beth, do you want to take a shot at that one?
Through the chair, before I speak, can you, I think you're looking at specifically the Brownfield RDC reduction program.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, so that is the program that I was talking about in regards to our year-end recommendations to put that surplus towards addressing some of our known commitments that we expect to come to light prior to the program ending in 2027. There are conditions that these builds need to have building permits pulled by that date. So the reality is, the approved eligible cost of $72 million could come to fruition. Staff don't feel like every one of those are going to come to fruition, or maybe a portion of each of those developments might happen. So it's definitely something that we're going to have to monitor. And I know in our previous discussions on taxpayer relief reserve, this would be the exact reason why we have the taxpayer relief reserve, to be able to address these pressures. And again, with incentive programs that are open-ended and don't have caps, this is exactly where we've exposed ourselves, in the sense of we've said, as long as you have a development that has remediation costs and you can have those remediation costs audited and proven that they meet the criteria and aligned to our program, we will forgive your permits up to the total of those remediation costs. So that $72 million is our estimate of what those total remediation costs are. So it will be something that you'll hear about over the next couple of years again from me as we get better information and we get closer to the due date or the end date of the program in 2027.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I asked that question because, we have $50 million worth of cash, basically, and this is $47 million worth of cash, and that's a little uncomfortably close in my estimation of what that should look like. Moving to page 122 of the financial statement. And it says that the lower level municipalities were not kept aware of or are aware of unissued debt from the lower level municipalities, and we have a debt limit. How dangerous is that?
Through the chair, as much as the locals are not required per se to provide us their official unissued debt, each of the locals should be, when they're budgeting their projects, obviously requiring approval with a funding source. So any projects that they do have that have been approved with debt, they would bring that forward as part of a cash flow. So we lead as the region a fulsome forecast of what debt has been approved and unissued, and then also what projects are coming down the pipe that the locals are looking to issue debt. I will say, with our S&P review, when I'm forecasting out the debt and calculating our metrics for the purpose of the review, I am estimating the locals at being $100 million a year, and holding the region debt at no increases right now. They have not hit the $100 million last year or this year, so we're still within our target and maintaining our metric. But that being said, there are a couple things on the horizon that could shift that. But we're going to bring forward a debt report in April, so next month's Corporate Services Committee, that will give a little bit more line of sight to the issuances this year, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that then.
Thank you. And my final question is on page 110, development charges. And I believe if you look at that, development charges, you will find that you'll see that there are we've segmented the development charges for police services, roads, sewer, water, and waste, and they're very nicely segmented. Does that suggest that if when we issue a building permit, the development charges are payable at that time? Does that suggest the possibility that the development charges, say for waste, could be deferred until we actually start picking up the garbage? Is that a possibility? And I don't know if Ms. Brenz should be asked. I should ask her that question. But is it possible to have some kind of a discussion about that? Because I think there's mezzanine type development charges indicated in our statement here. Do they all have to come due at the same time?
Thank you for the question and through the chair. The way development charges work is looking at how much do we think we need to spend in infrastructure to be able to support our anticipated growth over the next 10 years. The rate in which we charge is either looking at the number of residential units we anticipate to build, the square footage of commercial, and it's math to say, in order to do these projects over the next 10 years, and based on these growth targets, this is how much we're going to have to collect. So in your example of waste management, the things that we would be collecting development charges for might be an expansion to a landfill. I don't know if Ms. Chen can, while I keep talking, if you can think of a couple other things that are in the waste management growth study. And we come forward and we seek council's approval. And there's going to be a lot of meetings populated in your calendar over the next year or two as we move forward with our 2027 DC background study. So there'll be lots of time to ask questions in regards to how we calculate those and how it's set. So we collect those based on the council approved bylaw at this point in time. So we would be required to collect. I think there's this concept of trying to align the spend or the cost of the development charges on the building permit to the actual services that you're requiring for your specific build or development. So in that case, yes, you won't get garbage collected, but it's really not about the garbage collected while you're building. It's really about the future infrastructure that's required. So the current DCs are paying for future growth, and the previous developers have paid for the existing growth that those builders are now leveraging for their developments. Does that answer the question? Was there something else in waste management that?
Through the chair to the councillor, so the eligible services under waste management services that would be DC eligible include waste diversion facilities and waste diversion vehicles and equipment. Those are the only, eligible capital costs that would be eligible for DC funding under the region's DC background study.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I understand that, and maybe I am not being clear in my question, but I'm suggesting that there's probably some kind of a mezzanine type arrangement, and we've got it all selected here, the roads, and it's all nicely segmented. Is it possible, and I'm just suggesting that perhaps there's a timing arrangement that can be made so that, and I know it'll be complicated, be more complicated, but I think it would be a great assist to the development community to have something like that rather than pay the development charges in advance, which is really what they're doing. Or is this a conversation we should have some other place?
I'm gonna just ask on this, we're doing our DC review, I believe, at least I think we have a committee to get into that, so I'm just wondering, is that part and parcel, that question, to go along with that? No? Yep. I've been told there'll be a follow-up conversation on this.
Will I still be here when that conversation takes place?
It depends what the province does, so.
Thank you, Chair, that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Redicott, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can we turn to page 6 or slide 6 in the presentation, which is the high-level results? That's it. So this indicates that the regional police services had a $1 million deficit. And I believe the report indicates that relates to the Safe Communities legislation that was passed by the province last year. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct, and you can see on CSD 6, recommendation 2B, that the costs associated with the additional training costs around the Community Safe Policing Act will be covered by the police.
So my recollection is that last year, the police indicated that was a $10 million cost that the province had mandated through that legislation. So that was a $10 million amount that the regional taxpayers had to pick up. This is another $1 million on top of that. Is that correct?
Through the chair, I just want to clarify that the $984,000 deficit, the NRPS is saying that 417 of that deficit is in relation to the Community Safe Policing Act training requirements. And they did put money into a reserve in previous years to address that. So we're covering a portion of that deficit through the use of their reserve.
So whatever relates to the policing legislation that came from the province with a mandate is now being picked up by it's another cost being picked up by the regional taxpayer.
Correct, just through the reserve, yes.
Right. On the next slide, there's a reference to the $4.353 million related to labor-related costs, variance in that. And that's a saving. That had to do with gapping, positions not being filled, that type of thing?
So the 4353, that's the number you're referencing, that is actually a deficit, and that's largely within our senior services division, an arbitrated award.
So more labor, not less labor?
Correct.
Okay. And so that wasn't anticipated, couldn't be anticipated at the time the budget was approved by council?
Through the chair, I'll do my best. We might need to follow up with. Oh, yes. I think I'll start, and then if Director Maffei would like to chime in, maybe we can look to him. So it does have to do with our QP 1263 agreement change, which required a one-time payout. So these were arbitrated awards, so we were told to do this. We always do our best to try and anticipate what those costs will be. Obviously, we bring forward a report to council to seek guidance and direction when we're going into these setting the contracts. But this was something that was over and above what we had anticipated. And we did have some increased overtime costs during outbreaks and new admissions. So it's a bit of a combination. It's not all to do with the 1263. A portion of that is. So I don't want to say the full 4.4 million because that is quite a significant number just related to one contract. It's about $1.6 million to do with the 1263.
Thank you, Chair. So that's about 0.75% on the general levy.
Overall, yes.
Do we have that, Chair, do we have that covered for the 26 budget?
That's the budget chair, just for fun.
Just getting
Chair.
nervous because sometimes people criticize me. They think I established the budget.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yes, rest assured that any of those awards have been accommodated within the
And then can we
2026
go
budget.
Okay, thank you. Can we go to the slide that deals with the waste management summary? And that makes reference to a $1.98 million surplus. And along the right-hand side of the slide is about 900,000. So what's the other 900 or $1 million related to? Any large items or just a bunch of smaller items?
Through the chair, we try to highlight just the top three, just to tell some of the key stories. There definitely was a lot of put and takes, but nothing worth noting on the slide.
Okay. And is it possible to get some idea? There's some large waste management capital projects. Is it possible to get some indication what the larger ones are? You'd mentioned, Ms. Brents had mentioned landfill. Are there other large projects for which money is being set aside in waste management?
Through the chair, I'm just going to look through the Q4 report, but all of the projects, active ongoing projects with budgets greater than $1 million are in that Q4 report, so they would be listed out with detailed budgets, actuals, and cash flows.
So you know that, and we know that,
Yeah.
but the public presumably isn't reading that 100-plus page document.
Through the chair, so page 91 of that report shows Waste Management has about $31 million in active budgets for capital projects greater than $1 million.
Thank you. So then, if I might, Chair, I still have a little bit of time left. There, we have a large surplus in water, not so much in wastewater. We have larger needs in wastewater, not in water. Do we have a policy that prevents water surpluses from being put into the wastewater reserve to pay for future wastewater projects? I mean, they're one utility.
Through the chair, I know we need to maintain water and wastewater separately as it's a rate-based. I would have to take that away. It's eluding me right now as to, I believe that the two need to be maintained separately. The one thing that I would say, we are looking at internal financing policy, so that if there ever was the need, we could borrow from wastewater or from water to support wastewater. But I would have to take that away and bring that back in regards to the requirement to keep both separate.
I think that would be helpful because we're putting money into the water reserve. They're about the same amounts of money right now, but the wastewater capital needs are significantly higher. So if we could get some clarity on that, I'd appreciate it. And I think I'm going to leave it at that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Redekop. Chair Gale.
Thank you, Chair. So I bring this question up on DC revenues based on Burlington putting a moratorium on certain DC revenues for 2 years, and I don't like that idea. But if you're going to have a DC review coming up in the next 2 cycles, I'll just give you my question, wait for an answer then. When do you think the DC review will be?
Through the chair, so we've just started to kick it off. We're going to be, I believe we've established our DC task force, so it's a subset of councillors. I think we ended up with 10. We will be bringing forward terms of reference. We anticipate at least, I think, four meetings with council, and then many meetings, obviously, with our development community and any of our interested parties, public engagement, that sort of thing. I believe we're anticipating bringing the bylaw back in June of 2027. Our existing bylaw needs to be replaced by September 1st, 2027.
Oh. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question now, and if you can give me somewhat of an answer, and I've posed this before, because of what Burlington did, and they must have a different strategy that I don't know about. Could you tell me if the grants offset the DCs, that revenues that we wouldn't get if you build up the home building or development on it, if you understand what I mean? They must be banking on that, I would think, and I'd like to know what their strategy would be. Do the provincial grants offset what you would give up on development charges, or are they even close? I'm not looking for an answer right now. I think that's a tough question.
Through the chair, Councillor Gill, how about we start digging into that, and that will bring, excuse me, perhaps that's a conversation when we bring the councillors that are going to be working on the DC bylaw as part of that information sharing that we can do there. Is that fair?
Yes, and the reason I bring it up, Chair, is a number of groups want to meet with me for the obvious reasons, and They brought up Burlington. I've also had people say, oh, there's so many cities that aren't charging development charges, which is bull. But regardless, I'd like to have an idea what the province is doing. So if you can get back to me, even on the side, a little bit on it, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be handy for the committee as they're reviewing it as well, understanding sort of best practices that are going on out there as well, so. I don't see any other names on the list at this point, so with that, please, is there any questions to the motion that's sitting in front of us at the moment? And if not, please vote electronically, yes or no. And that is carried. Good discussion. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. Next report is CSD 7 2026. It's our 2026 property tax policy, ratios, and rates. Can I get Member Seaborn to move and Councillor Height to second this? Get it onto the floor. Staff have any comments on this? This is pretty much a housekeeping item, but does staff have any comments on this, Beth, at all? Just to throw you under the bus again. So.
Through the chair, just given our current state of assessment, being that assessment's been frozen since 2016, at this time, no, there's nothing different about this tax policy report versus previous years. I'll just highlight there's a couple of appendixes in the report that are interesting in the sense of we've had some conversations with some councillors internally around small business class, tax class, as well as discussions on provincial legislation that allows for tax class reductions for multi-residential units, affordable and non-affordable. It is not the recommendation of staff or in discussions with the area treasurers to move forward with either of those, given that any reductions to those tax classes put further pressure on our residential tax base, which is already a significant portion of the tax bill, and will put additional pressure there. So it is not recommended at this point in time. Those things will all be considered part and parcel to future reassessment when we see that.
Height. Councillor Height.
Yes, Ms. Brins read my mind, because I can recall back a number of years ago, there was discussion about comparing us to other communities where they don't have a 1.734 for commercial. They were trying to have everyone at the one level. And the complaint is from some businesses wanting to open up in Niagara or companies wanting to set up. They kept questioning why our tax ratio was so high, because other communities were level at 1.1. So she read my mind. That's what I was going to ask, to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Thank you. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question. The new multi-res rate. Oh, were you on there? Go ahead, Councillor Redcow. So the tax ratio between new multi-res and multi-res, I would imagine one would transition into the. No, that's not the case. So what's the different classifications between the two?
Through the chair, timing, when the property was originally built, and what tax class was assigned at that time.
So there's no eventual transition between new and multi?
Mm-mm.
So it's there.
And that's one of the concerns with introducing another new multi-res. Then depending on, it creates inequity in the multi-res tax class.
So you're penalized because you've been there before?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reddicup.
That was my question. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me, but, and why we do it, I don't know. I mean, it seems a little, absurd might be too strong a word, that an old multi-residential pays more in taxes than a commercial. It just doesn't make sense.
Sure.
through the chair, that was a legislated change.
Still doesn't make sense, no matter who legislated it.
Okay, thank you. I see no other persons on the list, so with that, please vote electronically, yes or no. And that is carried. Our next report, CSD 10-2026, the Esri Enterprise Agreement Contract Renewal 2026. This is actually, even though we're spending money, this is a good news story. I'm wondering, Mr. Hendry, do you want to make any comments about this?
Yeah, I can make a quick comment on it. So just in general, the Esri software, that's our spatial data software. So used public works, used for mapping, used for economic development. It's a type of software that's used by essentially all the municipalities in the region, and including some of the ABCs and whatnot as well. So this is actually, I think, our second or third time doing this. But over the years, we've been bringing more and more people onto this sort of, I call it a master agreement, where essentially we collectively put our requirements together, and then we approach the software provider as a large group, sort of leveraging economies of scale on it. So as it stands right now, we actually have every municipality in Niagara on that, as well as police, parks, and the Niagara Transit Commission. This time in the renewal process, we realized primarily because of just the scale of the acquisition, about a 73% reduction in cost that we would have incurred going out potentially on our own for these. So it's, I think, to Chair Foster's point, I do think it's a good news story. And I think it's an example of some of the things that we can do collectively when we're working together on it. So.
Thank you. Can I get Councillor Diodati to move and Councillor Cisco to second this report?
Love to.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any questions or comments at this point? Seeing none, please vote electronically, yes or no. Yep. That is carried, I think. Oh, or are we carried here? Lots of stuff going on here on the screen. We're carried? Okay, we're carried. Great, thank you. Our next item, 4.4, is CSC 5-2026. This is the referred motion concerning the hiring freeze on non-essential positions. And there is another report, another agenda item report, which is 5.6, which is the information that has been brought back from staff on this particular report. So with that, let us go to our CSC 5-2026. To get this on the floor, can I ask Councillor Seaborn, can you move? Councillor Olson, can you second it, please? Okay, thank you. So this particular motion is on the floor, and just keep in mind again that agenda item 5.6
On a point of order, is it on the floor? Is it on the floor to accept or just to receive?
Sorry?
You're putting something on the floor. Is it just to put it on the floor to receive, or is it to accept?
This is the motion that is attached that came with the referral. So
At
what's in front of you?
526.
So what's in front of you is the 4.4.
Is 4.4 or 5?
Yeah.
Excuse me. 4.4.
Yeah.
And I'm asking, is it to receive only, or is it to accept? To move forward with that motion? If it's to accept or to receive, I'm asking the mover how they received it, how they're dealing with it. If it's to receive, we can all vote any way we'd like. If it's to accept, then we have to determine yes or no for sure on that motion.
Just let me check with the clerks. I want to make sure we do this right, okay? So,
I think it's really important to figure this out.
so technically, at this point in time, we are actually dealing with the motion that was referred over. So what is in front of you now is the recommendation that comes along with that particular motion. The other motion, or the other report later, will be received when we go into it as a consent item anyway. So, so with that, do you have any questions? Oh, okay, thank you. Are there any, Councillor Olson, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And my question is for Mr. Meffe. I wanted to ask about any CBA complications of a hiring freeze. And I can imagine that there are some implications that arise in our collective bargaining agreements.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Rosa's question, so thank you for that. So each of our collective agreements has language in them, and if they don't have specific language, we have by practice where a vacancy occurs, we have a certain period of time to either post that vacancy, or if we're going to delay posting that vacancy, we have to notify the unions that we're doing it, provide the rationale as to why, and attend or participate in a meeting with the union if they request to discuss it. And so some of the ramifications, obviously, that could come from not filling roles from a collective bargaining sense is that as those roles are left vacant, I think as, you know, even the CAO points out in his memo that I appreciate is on the consent item for later, is that inherently we could run into issues around potential for overtime being incurred, which again is a collective agreement issue. There's also the issue around the unions raising concerns about people working in roles outside of their class. So for example, if they're working in a role currently that is not within the scope of the position that's vacant, and we require the work to be done, so we can have some issues with that as well. And then obviously there's some also inherency around the potential of increased sick time and other things that could occur as a result under our collective agreements.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be voting in opposition to the motion simply because I think I accept the staff report, and the implications I think are unfair to us as an employer, and we don't get the advantage of our staff, and I think it's detrimental morale and all sorts of things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Redekop.
Thank you, Chair. So if this motion were to pass today, it would have to be dealt with at Regional Council 2 weeks from now. Would staff be then dealing with some of the issues that they've raised in their memo with respect to the logistics of this, i.e. identifying who is non-essential, determining how they would roll out the report that's being requested? I think it's on a periodic basis from the CAO. Is that information that we would get prior to dealing with it at Regional Council? Because that's important to me, because that's a lot of logistical moving parts for this motion, which I don't think is particularly well crafted in my view.
So, number one, of course, is that no motion moved at committee, whatever our committee is really valid until it's ratified by council. So, so my question to the CAO was if it looks like this is the way council is going, I guess what would you do at that point, giving the sort of the the type of query that is.
Thank you, Chair, through you. So we certainly have contemplated the work required and agree with the councillor's comments. It's quite a bit of work. So no, we hadn't, at this point, I hadn't contemplated doing that work prior to council. I mean, if I was even attempted to be walking on partially done work, my preference was to have a determination of the will of council. Are we going in this direction before actually doing considerable amount of work that would go into that?
Well, I get that, Chair. It's just that if this is defeated, or if it's carried, it's going to come up at the regional council meeting. And I think the implications relative to the time and energy and expense that would be incurred to pursue something that we already in effect are doing would be of interest to councillors who aren't in this particular meeting. In any event, I'll leave that to staff. I'm not going to support this because I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gannan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wondered too, I noticed just browsing through Facebook last night that there was a regional ad relating to 11 different positions. And that made me think about the timing of this as well, since I'd already read the agenda package. About the difficulty, and I wonder maybe if CEO Tripp could speak to that as well, about how you would ever begin to distinguish between what we already need and what other things may come up between now and 2027, where this is looking to extend, and the complications that that might cause for actually getting the work done at the region. So
There's a lot to that question. So I guess reflecting back to the previous question as well, determining sort of what was exempt and a part of a list that would be subject to this freeze is quite a big body of work that then would have to have some sort of endorsement from council. So that determines sort of the scale of logistics involved in executing this moving forward. I can say just generally speaking, any degree of this is going to constrain or diminish our ability to provide services. There is just a natural turnover of work, of placements within our workforce for a whole variety of reasons, and not necessarily bad ones, just the nature of the work. And if there were a mechanism that locked that up or slowed that process, it's going to have an impact on services. It's going to have an impact on staff welfare.
So thank you for that. Through you again, Mr. Chair. I didn't read it carefully. I didn't look at what those were, but I thought I couldn't imagine who would be making the decision about what was necessary and what was unnecessary. Certainly wouldn't be the purview of this council to try to determine, where that cutoff line should be. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Gannan. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question through the CAL. Number 5 there, I would assume that, you briefly highlighted the fact that the assumption of the number of hours put in to get those answers. So is it, I would imagine it's a lot of work even to get an idea of where they sit by next council. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair. So yes, I've indicated already, that's quite a bit of work to be definitive this. But if I could take it away, possibly, I'm not 100% sure, prior to council, just a memo of what my thoughts are on that at a high level.
That'd be great. Just so I'm sure that when this comes back in 2 weeks' time, we'll probably get those questions to you. So if you leave that with you, we appreciate it.
Thank you. With that, please vote electronically, yes or no. And the motion is lost. Let us move on to our next item this morning, which is the recommendations from the joint Board of Management Niagara Courts meeting held on February the 19th. Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Thank you, Chair, through you. So this is before committee There were two items, as noted, that proceeded and were approved at the Joint Board of Management meeting for Provincial Offences Courts on February 19th. One, which is the second one, perhaps I'll speak to first, is the routine report that Council sees every year, which is the write-off report as a result of a process that courts undertake in accordance with criteria established by the Ministry of the Attorney General to write off for effectively financial accounting purposes delinquent fines that are no longer considered to be collectible. So after they've taken all the necessary steps to try to recover those fines, they're written off as an accounting exercise. But in the future, should circumstances change, they can be added back and recovered because fines against the Crown are owed in perpetuity. It is a routine report, but again, it's here for approval. And the first item is a more unusual one, if you like. Council may recall that when the Joint Board of Management courts brought forward the operating budget for 2026, there was a memo that came to Budget Review Committee of the Whole and subsequently Council, noting that the fact of the legislative change in November regarding the removal of authority for automated speed enforcement would have a significant impact on courts, both related to expenses and revenues, that was likely going to require a budget adjustment. But staff wanted to do the work necessary to do a thorough line-by-line assessment of what that would look like. So that also went before the Joint Board of Management on February 19th and is here before committee for approval and then going to council March 26th. It did result in a significant adjustment, as you will see, but ultimately zero net impact. But there were labor impacts, labor reductions, as well as other expense changes and significant revenue changes. The committee will also be aware that a similar report went before Public Works Committee yesterday, dealing with the other side of our business that supports the Vision Zero initiatives related to automated enforcement, which is the Road Safety Strategic Plan that also addressed a budget adjustment needed related to managing that program. So bringing both of these forward, happy to answer any questions. I would also note that Associate Director Vink is online with far more knowledge and expertise and able to answer questions as well if needed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I get Councillor Whalen to move and Councillor Campy into second?
So moved, Chair.
Putting this on the floor, thank you. And the motion in front of us. Any questions at this point? Oh, Councillor Encina, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make it quick. The delinquent accounts, is there any way we can, I know they probably expended money to try and get money from them. Any other way to squeeze money out of people that we haven't explored? Whether hiring private investigations or whether we have somebody do that, is there another way instead of writing stuff off?
So, Chair, through you, maybe I'll start, but it might be one where Associate Director Vink can layer in some more content. So we do have a team of staff, 3 FTEs effectively engaged in the collections, because we also recognize from a deterrent effect, the process of having charges before the court has less impact if we're not actually collecting and following through. So it's important just from purposes of basic operations of the court, as well as in terms of making sure that the court is self-sustaining, because right now it doesn't negatively impact the levy, it funds itself. So it is something that staff takes seriously. Council may recall a year, maybe a little more ago, staff did go out with a new competitive RFP. It's a collaborative RFP, so other municipalities participate in it with courts, and to really look at refining the way we proceed with collections in our collection strategy, and to try to be more aggressive in terms of collections agencies we onboard and having KPIs for them to try to get them to really do everything they can, because it's the older debt, the delinquent debt that it was inherited at the time of the transfer in 2001 that we're still, in some cases, trying to recover on. And the older a debt gets, the more difficult it is. But courts take a multi-pronged approach. So the 3 FTEs, they're doing payment plans, everything from payment plans to recovered over time, adding it to the tax roll, which is something that was done in collaboration with the 12 local area municipalities who allow us to leverage that as a way to recover, ultimately, when something's put on title, depending on the eventual disposition of it. But there's a number of tools and practices that are followed. And if you're looking for something more specific, again, we can go to Associate Director Vink, but we do take it seriously, Councillor Inson, and we do try to do everything we can to recover the funds.
Through you, Chair, the reason I bring this up, back in my day, they used to, if money was owed after a certain period of time, they used to issue warrants of arrest for collections. And that's really what it was. You went to someone's house, you either have the money or you go to jail. So that was one avenue for deterrence. And it really had a great effect for collecting funds. I'm going to leave that with you if that's an avenue that we could follow through, because I really don't like going into delinquent accounts and just wiping it off the books. So I just leave that with you. If there's another way that we can go about this, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I'm wondering if we might go to Associate Director Vink to see if she can provide any information in response, Councillors, and if we have your indulgence, Chair. Sure.
Thank you. So that is a great question, Councillor Insina. At the present time, all of the collections opportunities and activities that we are able to complete in order to address delinquent fines are dictated by the Provincial Offences Act, and municipalities have limited capacity in terms of which activities they can complete in order to collect on these fines. We are presently in the Niagara region using every single possible activity and tool that is available to us through the legislation. So we are currently exhausting all potential options. We do find that there are different activities that do promote payment. Of course, we look at activities like license suspension, completing wage garnishments, completing writs of seizure, and of course, as Director Gibbs mentioned, the investigation component that is completed both by our internal 3 FTEs and collections agencies. We also regularly rotate those collection agency placements so that cases have renewed attention on them periodically. The other piece I would say too is we actually have great success in looking at collections from a compassionate approach and being proactive with defendants in order to explore opportunities where we're noticing trends, where we're seeing that individuals have limited capacity due to economic or employment factors, and in entering things like payment plans and finding a way that's an affordable method for them to pay down their delinquent fines, because regular monthly payments is a better approach than no payments at all. So really it's about meeting people where they're at in that approach. And we do have great success with that approach as well. But we are currently using all available tools and processes as outlined in the Provincial Offences Act.
Well, through you, Chair, thank you for that. And I do appreciate you taking the nice approach. I wouldn't take that approach. I would take the other approach, but yours is working, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
There's so many good comments that I'm thinking, and I'm not allowed to have any editorial comment from the chair position. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question. The majority of these write-offs are deceased. How ruthless are we? Do we go into depth to chase estates?
Why not?
Of 1229, 1081 are deceased.
The estates have money.
Through the chair. So there is a section in the report, because this has been a bit of an anomaly in terms of a higher volume than normal that we would see for the last number of years. I think it was 2019. The province merged their technological systems that deal with license and plates, and that resulted in these being caught more readily. So that's impacted it, as well as more aggressive enforcement related to delinquent fines. So we're seeing a higher number, if you like, of write-offs attributed to deceased persons. But I would note that the number of cases doesn't equate to the number of defendants, if that makes sense. So there's actually more cases than defendants because there might be multiple charges. So in actual fact, for this period, there's 1,081 cases. That equates to 239 defendants.
Okay, so they're larger than what they actually appear on this.
Yes, and again, because they're delinquent fines, some of them date back many years ago.
I just thought it was a bad way to get out of paying a fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whalen. Chair Gale.
That's exactly what I was gonna ask, but I wasn't gonna word it the same way, so I'm good. Thanks.
He's a banker, remember, so. The motion has been duly moved and seconded. Please vote electronically, yes or no. That is carried. Thank you, Miranda, for joining in with that. Our next item, CSC 7-2026, Councillor Seaborn is bringing forward this motion. Councillor Seaborn, do you have a seconder that you've asked?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Gannon was willing to second this for me.
Perfect, thank you. So that's moved and seconded, so this is on the floor. Councillor Seaborn, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that I've heard over and over and over again is how high our regional taxes are recently. In speaking with a variety of people, whether they're mayors or CEOs or other council members, regional councillors, or just the general public, people really don't have a good idea of what the region does. It was one of the reasons I recently took on a project to figure out exactly what that was. But even with that knowledge, they don't recognize the difference between what our police are charging us that we pay as regional, as the region, and what the regional portion is. So one of the things I've been asking about is whether or not those two things could be separated, whether people could have some way of knowing what is the regional government's costs and what our police budget costs. Everybody loves the police. One of the recent meetings at my local council, they said they were not very happy with, at the time, we were looking at a 10% increase, but in the same breath, they came out and said, but we need more police, like we just don't have enough police. This, I think, would become more transparent and certainly easier for the public to understand if they knew that based on this, in our case, 6.3% of the regional portion of the municipal tax budget, or tax bill rather, that a big portion of that is for policing. I think people need to recognize the police are important. The police aren't working for free. There is a cost associated with it, and I think people would be a little bit more appreciative if they knew what those costs were. So this addresses that, in that if there is some way that we can actually point out that this is what the region is charging you, this is what the police are charging you, I think everybody would be a whole lot happier, which is the reason for this.
Thank you. And the motion is not saying do it. The motion is saying let's take a look at it and see what's going on with it. Thank you. Chair Gale.
Thank you, Chair, and I just want to let you know, I had a conversation with the police chief a month or so about this, and he supports something like this, and I'm proud of him for saying that, because he said he can stand on the decisions of his own budget. So I was very proud of him to say that, so I support this.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other names on the list. Please vote electronically, yes or no. And that is carried. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6 items under consent. Does anyone wish to vote separately on any of those consent items? Seeing none, can I get Councillor Grant to move and Councillor Secord to second that we take these consent items as a block?
So moved, Chair.
So moved, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions to any of these particular reports? Seeing none, please vote electronically, yes or no. And that is carried. Other business. Anybody has any other business? Councillor Olson, please go ahead.
Balance sheet for water and wastewater as of the close of business on 31st of December, 2025. And essentially what I'm looking for is what the liability, well, the balance sheet with the assets and the liabilities with the portion of debt that would be applied to that, because I'm convinced, and I've spoken to Ms. Brands about it, and it's not a huge task to do that, to create a segmented item, and she could speak for herself on that one, of course. But it's not a hard task to come up with a segmented item that would show what form that that corporation or municipality or public utility would look like at the end of December. And it would also give us an indication of what the debt or what the credit rating might become predictable. We have a credit rating of AA+, and that covers everything. I suspect that that would have to be rationed between the different segments if we're going to do something. So I will put that forward in the next meeting. Thank you.
I'm just wondering, through to the director, would this make sense as direction to you at this point, or would you be looking for a motion to prepare this?
Through the chair, completing or bringing back a balance sheet for water and wastewater, we can certainly do that. I guess I just am looking for some clarity as far as interpreting that balance sheet and what that could mean if we were to segregate water and wastewater. I don't know how comfortable we would be at this point in time speaking to pros, cons, considerations of it at that point in time. Would the balance sheet suffice at this point in time?
I believe that's right. I believe I could come up with my own pros and cons in my own mind, and I'm sure there'll be a variety of opinions available to us. But I would like to begin the conversation because it is something that has come up in several venues, I think. So I'd be fine with that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Olson, and it would also be interesting to understand that at the local area municipality level as well, for sure. Councillor Encina.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to staff, I know it's been a touchy subject for a while. Is there a way, I guess I'm looking for direction or some kind of report, how we can ask for or how we can proceed to get a quote for policing from another agency via OPP. I guess I'm looking for a way that we can, whether we go through legal, it can explain, if Ms. Gibbs can explain at a next meeting or whatever, the process we would have to follow rather than jump in and do anything right now. Just to explore that avenue, if we could.
Chair, through you, I think it might be helpful if that's something that council wants us to spend some energy on in terms of doing a deep dive to proceed as a motion for a report, because that's not information that we have at the ready, and we would want to do a fulsome review in order to provide information responsive to the ask back to council for consideration.
I guess through you, Chair, then, is it, you're wishing to have a motion put forward? And if that's the case, I will do that.
May I recommend at this point in time, and it's this same thing,
Yep.
Councillor Olson is coming back on the list. Can you basically state at this point that you'll be bringing back that motion next month?
Absolutely.
Okay,
100%.
great. Thank
Thank
you. Councillor Olson, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My second notice of motion would be in favor of a program, cost reduction program to identify $6 million in savings from the operating department and ABCs, with savings to be applied to the reserves in 2026.
Councillor Olson has requested this as a notice of motion for
That's correct.
next month's corporate services meeting, so, yeah, thank you, sir.
And I will speak to it at that time, or?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Is there anything else under other business anyone wishes to bring up this morning? Closed session. Do any members of committee wish to go into closed session to discuss any of the confidential items? Councillor Redekop, do you wish to go into closed session?
I don't, Chair, but I do want to deal with these separately when we deal with them in open session.
When we're in open? Okay, that's fine. Or when we're doing the motions, that's fine. So does anyone wish to go into closed? Okay, seeing none. Let me check my notes. We will jump down to where we need to go here. Yeah. Next page. Okay, business arising from closed session. So, I'd like to get, there's two items within the closed session. So, can I get Councillor Seaborn and Councillor Encina to move and second item 7.1 confidential CSD 4-2026. Thank you. Any questions to the motion? Please vote electronically, yes or no. Okay, thank you. And the second item from confidential, can I get Councillor Height and Councillor Redekop to move and second item 7.2 confidential CSD 8-2026? Any questions to the motion? Please vote electronically, yes or no. And that is carried. Well, thank you very, very much, everyone, this morning. This was a really good meeting. We got through an awful lot of interesting reports and information. Our next meeting will be held Wednesday, April the 15th at 9:30 a.m. here in Council Chambers at Regional Headquarters. And with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Have a great day.